All right, what is going on, guys? Today we're going to be talking about a really important topic, which is your standards. Your standards are going to dictate the exact destiny that you have in life. Now, what exactly is a standard? Well, a standard is pretty much defined as what you will and will not tolerate inside of your life. So it's almost like a boundary or a frame that you place around yourself, your standards, what you're going to tolerate, what you won't tolerate from yourself, from other people, etc., which is really, really important. And if you look at any successful person, any respectable person, any person who you just feel that vibe of respect from, it's somebody who has high standards and has strong boundaries, who isn't afraid to stand up for their boundaries because the standard they have for themselves is they're going to stand up for their boundaries. Now, this can apply in any area of your life. It can apply in your social life. It can apply in your business. It can apply inside of your fitness journey. And today, we're obviously going to be talking about your fitness journey, but you can take these principles and apply them to any other area of your life that you find important, because at the end of the day, anything that you improve inside of your fitness, you're going to improve across the board in all other areas of your life. So when it comes to standards, the interesting thing that I see with a lot of entrepreneurs, busy professionals, businessmen, really a lot of people who just go hard in their career in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and find themselves in a place somewhere in their 30s, 40s, and 50s where they're out of shape. Well, the common thing that I see is they have high standards in their career, but they don't have high standards for their body. And often we see that their standards inside of their personal life dip. And the interesting thing is when the standards are low in the personal life and inside of their fitness, it actually starts to infect the business. It starts to infect their career and it starts to cap their potential. And this is something I saw inside of myself because I was so driven in my career when I first started as a personal trainer at a gym in 2016, quickly rose to the top, became a manager in 2017. But by the time 2018 came around, I had become comfortable. I had become complacent. I told myself, I paid my dues, so now I can take it easy, okay? And I was making okay money, right? I mean, nothing really compared to what my standard is right now, but at the time it met my standard and I was like, cool, you know, eventually I'll make it, I'll be rich, whatever. But in being complacent, I allowed myself to lower my standards for my body. I allowed myself to get out of shape. I allowed myself to become a social hermit and for a lot of my charisma to die down as well, and found myself in a pretty solid rut where I was pretty much capped in sales. I wasn't producing more revenue. I wasn't really mentoring the trainers I was responsible for at the highest level. And ultimately, my ability to perform as a peak performer had dipped. And actually, this is something I've never shared before, but in June, I actually got demoted from manager because in May, my sales were significantly down. It was the first actual month where my sales were lower than anybody else's. Than 3 people on the team out of the 10. So I was still good, but again, I digress. We're gonna talk about standards today, and we're gonna talk about how these standards are gonna apply inside of your life, because maybe you found that you don't bring the same vigor, the same vitality, the same fire in the belly that you once brought to your career, because it's hard to find the fire in the belly. Even though the belly's gotten bigger, there's less fire in it because there's less energy, there's less power, there's less certainty, there's less charisma, and there's less ability to just bring it, roll your sleeves up, get your hands dirty, and work until you've met your standard. Now, I'm not saying that you should work all the time. You should take time to rest and relax, but that's not what this video is about. This video is about elevating your standards, and we're actually gonna talk about the body specifically. Now, just backtracking things before we really dive into your standards for yourself and how to raise that, I've been blessed with people in my life who have helped me to raise my standards, and I would encourage you to surround yourself with people who raise your standards for yourself as well. This is actually the first step, is putting yourself in an environment where the people elevate your standards. And I actually want to give a shout out to my dad. I'm about to make fun of him a little bit right now, but it's all in good fun. It's all out of respect. But my dad, when I was a kid, he always used to say, Munir, that is not good enough. Munir, you need to do better. Again, I've lost a little bit of my skill with accents because I haven't done them in a while, but if you guys like them, let me know, and maybe I'll throw in more as I impersonate my parents. Just kidding. Anyways, so surround yourself with good people. My dad always elevated me to a higher standard, which is part of why as soon as I got into fitness, I really took it to the top until 2016. I started to get a little complacent, and 2018 was when I really got out of shape, okay? So same thing with you. There's a very high chance that you've had mentors in business, mentors in your career, maybe a boss who you worked for at one point who elevated your standards. And I want to give a shout out to Justin, because Justin, who mentored me from 2016 to 2018 in my first job, elevated my standards massively for myself. During times where I felt lazy, where I felt tired, he leveled up my standards for me. And so likewise, I've continued to invest in mentors, even in business on my own, to ensure that I'm elevated to a higher standard. I've even hired mentors in fitness to allow me to elevate myself to a higher level, especially during the time where I was out of shape. And so when you look at yourself, I really want you to evaluate your circle, the people around you. Do the people around you elevate you in some areas of life, but not in others? There's a very high chance that if you're successful in your career, you're probably surrounded by other people who are successful in their career as well. But if you're not successful in your body, well, let's look at the 5 people around you and ask yourself a question: are these people in shape? I can almost guarantee that if you're not in shape, they're not in shape. And I can guarantee that if you're in shape, the 5 people around you are probably in shape as well. You know, you've definitely heard this quote before, and if you haven't, you're about to hear it right now. You're the sum of the 5 people you surround yourself with. And this quote is so true that it's actually really, really scary. And that's simply because we oftentimes know ourselves through others. Okay, so the standards of the people around us, the norms of the people around us, the sense of humor of the people around us, the rapport of the people around us, the ideologies, the mindset of the people around us becomes our mindset, our rapport, our standards, our sense of humor, our sense of the world, and our model of the world. Okay, very, very interesting. There's a bunch of books that we could dive into on this as well. Comment down below if you want me to send you a list of those books, because there's a lot of great books I've read on this stuff, but it's gonna help you massively. So the first thing I'd like you to do is audit your circle and look at the people inside of your life and ask yourself, where are these people's standards? Now, this is a hard one for me because I have to cut out a lot of people who I truly loved and truly had a great time hanging out with. But at the end of the day, I didn't really have time to hang out with people who were going to limit my potential and cause me to go broke. You know, it's funny because when I started my second business, so my first business saw success because it was just personal training. But my second business, I launched an online business, and I found myself in a place where I was hanging out with a roommate of mine who was a successful entrepreneur, but he had already built his business to a point where he had staff members, teams, and everything in place. And he would be a lot more successful if he was more on point, but he could kind of afford to coast a little bit and let his team take care of the rest. He was a decent enough leader that his team was on point. But this guy was always wasting time, partying, not doing a whole lot of, you know, important stuff that he needed to do in his business, which actually his business did actually end up imploding in 2020 with the pandemic. Not going to say who it is, but if you're watching this, you know I love you, bro. You know I'm here to support you. But this friend of mine, I started hanging out with him and I started to adopt his standards for himself. And, you know, I'm going to get a little bit vulnerable here, but, you know, one thing that he liked to do was he liked to smoke a lot of weed. He liked to go party. He liked to do a lot of things. And I started dragging myself into these destructive habits that made my second business a massive failure. And by the end of 2019, or towards the end of 2019, I found myself $10K in debt. This was a very, very vulnerable and difficult place for me, and it was 100% my fault, not my friend's fault, but my fault for not putting a boundary on this particular friend. Now, this friend is still a friend of mine, but I keep a little bit of a container around this individual simply because there's some times where I want to hang out with this guy, maybe once or twice a month, where we can go have fun, go meet people, etc. But when it comes to executing in business, I can't be around this guy, or it's very easy for me to slip back into the standards that I'd set for myself in 2019, which were the cause of the failure for my online business. Now, let's fast forward to 2020. I surrounded myself with some mentors who have insanely high standards so high that actually made me feel a little bit inadequate. And that inadequacy, even though inadequacy isn't always a good thing, actually was a good thing that I was able to leverage and bring myself to greater heights. So where do you fall into all of this? If you're still watching this right now, maybe some part of this resonates with you on some level. Maybe you've had a little bit of a wake-up call for yourself that there are some areas in your life where you need to level up your standards. So again, the first actionable step is evaluate the people around you and ask yourself honestly, point blank, with no bias, don't worry what they're going to say, just literally write this to yourself. Is this person a net positive or a net negative inside of my life? Is this person positive in some ways but negative in others? Maybe I need to put a boundary on this person in some areas of my life, and then in other areas of my life incorporate this person in. Maybe you have certain business colleagues who are great at giving you great new ideas and elevating you in business, but these individuals bring you down when it comes to fitness because they go to happy hour after work, they eat a bunch of junk, they have low standards, they don't work out, they allow themselves to get out of shape, and they're out of integrity with themselves. They're going to live 10 years less. They're headed towards a divorce because they neglect their wife and kids. They're in a place where maybe they're a negative influence on you in other ways, in your personal life and in your fitness, okay? If that's the case with these people, be around them at work, but when they invite you to happy hour, don't go to happy hour with them. Because guess what's going to happen if you go to happy hour? You're just going to keep surrounding yourself with all these people who cause you to have this identity as a guy who goes to happy hour after work to de-stress. And it's normal to de-stress with alcohol, etc. Just like how in 2019 it was normal for me to de-stress with freaking smoking weed all day. I almost said the F word, but I'm trying to keep this PC. Okay? So again, guys, what we're going to do today is we're going to give you some actionable steps. So again, environment is the first step. The second step is to actually do a time management optimization report or a lifestyle management report. Now, this is something I learned from one of my mentors, James Goff, who actually also works with busy professionals and entrepreneurs over in the UK. He's the #1 coach in the UK. He's transformed thousands of men, and he's a mentor who I've actually hired to help me both my business and with delivering my clients better results. And so far this year, it's been insane. My clients already got great results before this year, but the results have been even better with the accountability structures that he's helped me to install in place. And so the thing that I learned from him was this lifestyle management report and this time optimization game plan, where essentially what we do is we look at where the pockets of time are and where the time constraints are, so we can actually create a rhythm that allows us to execute towards our priorities. Now, what this gives you is it gives you something called momentum. And when you have momentum, it's easier to elevate your standards, and you start to give yourself actual factual evidence in your life of progress. You start to actually see progress, and that progress stimulates dopamine in your brain, which then increases motivation and allows us to generate even more momentum. And the more momentum we take after 27 days we build a habit, after 90 days we build an identity. And when we actually identify as somebody with high standards, somebody who non-negotiable works out 3 to 4 times a week, somebody who non-negotiable maybe only drinks alcohol once a month instead of every day after work or every weekend, we then place ourselves in a place where our standards have elevated and therefore our success will elevate across all areas of life, okay? Now, the final point that I'd like to give you when it comes to raising your standards is more on the mindset level. So we talked about on the environment level, we talked about on the habits level. The final thing that we're going to talk about is the mindset level, which is simply just sitting down with yourself and asking yourself what your values are. And I encourage you to kind of get yourself away from people, go for a walk, get yourself in a clear headspace where you're not influenced by other people, and just sit down and ask yourself, what do I want out of life? What do I want out of life? Like, what would have to happen over the next year after watching this video, maybe from taking action on what you learned in this video, in order for you to look back on watching this video at the moment that you're in right now and know that you were successful and be super excited about your results that you achieved over the next year? What would have to happen? How much would you need to weigh? What would your body need to look like? How would you need to feel? How many cups of coffee would you need per day versus how many you need right now? You get what I'm hinting at here if you're somebody who drinks a little bit too much coffee because you're a little bit burnt out and tired. And what would the people around me need to be saying? How would they need to be reacting? What would my business need to look at? What revenue numbers would I need to hit? Or if you're working inside of another business, what production numbers would I need to hit to show that I progressed over this next year and that watching this video and then taking action on what I learned was the best thing that ever happened to me? Ask yourself that question for yourself and then answer that question. It's going to help you to get clear. It's a beautiful question. I call it the possibility question. It's a beautiful way to get yourself super clear on exactly what you want on a factual level. Get clear on the facts, the numbers. How much do you weigh? How many cups of coffee do you need per day to have energy? Maybe it's only one, like my client Abdurrahman, who I posted an interview with 2 weeks ago. Maybe it's certain revenue numbers inside the business. Maybe right now you're at a certain number and you want to hit 200% of that next quarter or 4 quarters from now, aka a year from now. Okay, whatever that might be, I want you to put a specific number on that and then think, what actions do I need to take to achieve that number? Okay. Now, we're actually going to dive into something I wasn't planning on diving into in this video, but I think it really deserves to be mentioned here. And it's something I learned from another one of my mentors, Lynn Trin, who actually helped me turn around a lot of the low standards that I developed towards the end of 2019 and actually elevate my standards in 2020, restart my online fitness business, and actually see the greatest success I've ever seen, like literally 4 times the levels of client results, number of clients, etc., revenue, everything that we saw inside of 2019 when the business wasn't doing so well. And what Lynn taught me was something called the FFOC, facts, feelings, obstacles, commitments. This is super, super powerful. I encourage you to check out Lynn Trin. He's a coach to modern day businessmen, absolutely amazing, brilliant guy. And what this is we define the facts inside of our vision, but before we even identify what actions we need to take, so I actually kind of skipped things, I was trying to abbreviate it, but I really want to go in depth with this, even though the video is getting a little long, because this is so important. If you're still watching this, you deserve to know this. And that's, what are the facts? What are the feelings? How will I feel when I achieve that weight? How will I feel when I achieve that body? How will I feel when I only need 1 cup of coffee to get going instead of 3 to 4 or 5, right? How will I feel when my business does this much revenue? How will I feel when my partner reacts to me in a different way and I can see the love and fire in her eyes again? How will I feel when my children look up to me and respect me, when my staff members respect me, when I'm in a place in which I respect myself above all? How will I feel? Now, I'm getting the chills. I don't know if you guys can see, but I'm thinking about this right now, and I want you to think about this right now too. And maybe you're getting the chills too, but I really want you to think about this and just really feel it. The feelings will power you. Because there's a very high chance that one of the things that stopped you from getting in great shape, from scaling your business, from fixing your marriage or your relationships or your social life, one of the biggest things has been that you didn't feel like it. I know that for me, when my social life was a big issue, I didn't feel like going and meeting people. I know that when my business was failing, I didn't feel like improving my lead generation, improving my sales, improving my client delivery systems. I didn't feel like it. When I got out of shape, I didn't feel like working out and eating healthy and cooking and all this stuff. I didn't feel like it. But guess what? When you get clear on the feelings of where you want to be tomorrow, where you want to be next year, it's going to power you. Something I learned from Lynn. Now, on the flip side, one thing that's actually even more powerful than the feelings of possibility are the feelings of pain if we continue down the same road that we're on right now. Because if we don't change, if we allow ourselves to keep dropping the ball in whichever area of our life that we may be dropping the ball, whether that's fitness, whether that's business, whether that's relationships, whether that's all 3 in some capacity, well, where are you going to be a year from now if you don't change? Have you considered the potential ramifications if you keep going the way that you're going? Now, what does that feel like? How does it feel when you've gained another 20 pounds? How does it feel when your business has actually dropped in revenue, yet your expenses have increased and you're further in debt? Or hopefully you're not in debt right now, but you're in debt. I can tell you it feels like shit to be in debt. I was trying to keep this PC, but my passion came through and I ended up saying a bad word. Anyways, taking it back to relationships. How will you feel if your relationship dies, if you get a divorce, if you struggle to find a partner? How will that feel to face the consequences of where you'll be if you don't change? Okay, now we have what we call the red pill, blue pill. This is really, really powerful. This is actually one of my top 3 motivational strategies. I did a video on this inside of my free Facebook group the other day. Highly recommend you check it out. We got a lot of great content in there. But anyways, taking it back to the topic at hand, there's the possibility, there's the facts, the feelings, and then there's the obstacles and commitments. Because now that we have the facts of where we want to be, the feelings when we get there, but also the facts and feelings of what's going to happen if we don't change, well, what are the obstacles? What's the difference between point A and point B? What are the differences between red pill and blue pill? What are the obstacles that are holding you back? Is it that you don't feel like it? Is it that you don't know what to do? Is it that you don't have a time-efficient way to train and eat and meal prep in order to actually get where you want to be? Well, good news is in other videos on my channel, on my page here, you can actually learn exactly how to do that, but I digress. What are the obstacles that are standing in your way? The interesting thing, and this is something I learned from my mentor Lynn as well, is one of the biggest things that holds people back isn't necessarily a lack of knowledge. There's so much info out there. You can go on YouTube, you can go on Facebook, you can go on the internet, and you can Google search a million things. And sure, you'll learn a bunch of conflicting info and you'll get paralysis by analysis if you haven't already. But it's not so much an information problem as an implementation problem. You see, the biggest reason why people fail isn't because they don't know what to do or they don't have access to information on what to do, but rather it's a lack of courage to make a commitment and declare who they want to be and truly be accountable to that. And so as we look at this whole picture of what we talked about today, as we sum up this video, we've talked about your environment, we've talked about your habits, we've talked about your mindset, but at the end of the day, the biggest thing that might be holding you back right now is the fact that you haven't actually declared who you truly want to be, because you haven't reflected on it yet, but you're going to do so after this video. You're going to reflect on who you want to be, and then you're going to declare that. Now, that might mean that you declare it to Facebook. I've definitely done that a couple times, and I've gotten at least 100 people who engage with my posts, and now I'm accountable. Okay, I've declared it to my clients because my clients are people who I really respect, who look up to me, so I need to be able to show up for them. I've declared it to friends, I've declared it to mentors, I've made declarations and had the courage to make that declaration and commit to taking the actions I need to take. So again, I don't know you personally yet, but I would encourage you to look at the facts, the feelings, and the real obstacles and just hash them out. Write out all the potential obstacles that might stop you from getting where you want to be, and then make commitments to break them and declare it to somebody. You could declare it to somebody who's going to hold you accountable. Like, let's say that you've made a lot of declarations to your wife that you're going to lose weight if you're married, yet you've always fallen short of that. Well, obviously she's not going to believe in you and she's not going to believe you. And that's okay. That doesn't mean that she doesn't love you. It just means that, I mean, can you blame her if you've done so many times in the past that you've declared something and haven't fulfilled it? Exactly. So declare this to somebody who's going to hold you accountable. That might be me. That might be another coach. That might be somebody who you know has high standards, right? That's one of the key things here is it needs to be somebody with high standards, who has high standards for you and high standards for themselves. Make that declaration, make that commitment, and then execute every single day. That person's going to hold you accountable, and maybe that's somebody else. But either way, accountability is a big component of this, especially if you're a busy professional entrepreneur. All your motivation, drive, and focus goes into the business, or at least 80% of it. So we need to at least take 10% of your motivation and give it to your family, your loved ones. And we need to take 10% of that and at least give it to your fitness, hopefully more. You can obviously delegate the accountability and motivation to a knowledgeable professional. There's plenty of us out there. Well, there's a decent amount of us out there. But at the end of the day, you need to be accountable. You need to get clear. So first thing I want you to do, I know I've given you a lot here, just declare what your higher commitments are, what your higher values are, and then get clear on the facts, the feelings of where you want to be, get clear on the obstacles, make some commitments, and then take action. Surround yourself with better people. Install positive habits. Baby step yourself. Generate momentum, and obviously cultivate the mindset where you're clear on your principles every single day. I'd recommend going for a short clarity walk, maybe 5-10 minutes in the morning, just to get clear on this if you need to. Especially if you wake up in a negative headspace, write down whatever negativity there is and then go for a walk. It's gonna help you so much. Anyways, lots of action points there, but I want you to rewatch this video or parts of it if you need to, potentially that last little call to action there, and take action on it, because I promise you, you've already invested probably about 20 minutes into watching this video. I'm not sure where we're at right now, but about 20 minutes. I want you to take another 20 minutes or even just a 5-minute little debrief to take action on this, because if you do take action on this, it'll change your life. If you don't, you just wasted another 20 minutes. I know that you're a busy man, that you don't have time to waste, so take action on what you learned today. And let me know how it goes. Comment down below. Let me know what other content you want to see, what you learned from this, if you need any help. And I look forward to seeing you inside of the next video.